Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam once said, excellence is a continuous process, not an accident, and today's guest is a proof of exactly that. So, every year, thousands of engineering students across Pune compete for a handful of pre placement offers at top companies. The kind of process where, if you get one out wrong answer in the technical round, it can cost you that offer. So, today's guest walked into the process at BNY, which is Bank of New York, and walked out with her offer in hand. So please welcome Rutuja. And this is Titan number 4, which is a part of Pune's Placement Titans, an initiative by Entrance and Beyond, where we sit down with students who crack these on-placement opportunities in the city, and we basically go through the rounds that they did, and we talk about genuine experience from their journey. Talking a bit more about Rutuja, so she basically graduated from Cummins College of Engineering in Pune. She got a PPO at BNY. She did really good in college academically. She had a 9.2 CGPA. She also presented some research papers internationally. She took part in some other competitions, and she was also a part in the sports as well. So she was part of the volleyball group at Cummins, and she did all of this within her 3 to 4 years that she spent at Cummins. So first of all, thank you so much, Rutuja, for sparing some time on the podcast and trusting us with your journey. So before we start, I'd like to know what would you like to say about the 4 years of college and how they were, if you can summarize that.
Yes, so thank you so much for having me here. And talking about the 4 years of my college life, I would say only if it would be one word that is more kind of dynamic. Because for me, it was like the first year, it was more of knowledge gaining and just observing all the things. Then from second year onwards, it was actually working towards my goals. Those goals may be in perspective of the placements, in perspective of my sports or anything, but I wanted to participate in as much possible events and the all kind of sessions which college takes, and apart from the college also, apart from the studies even, I wanted to participate in as much things as possible. So yeah, that's what I have did, more of a participation and gaining a lot of exposure.
So what was the mindset that you initially started college off with? Because college is something new, right? So how was that initial journey of maybe first year, and what sort of mindset did you enter college with? Did you have some goals in your mind before entering college, or it was more of a chill sort of thing where you were like, I'll explore college and then let's see where God takes me?
Yeah, so 90% of the times I'm always go with the flow person. But sometimes when it's already, means after observing several things, I try to fix on some goals and then start working on it. And before joining college, I had no idea that what I am going to do and how I'm going to figure out the things. But eventually, as the years passed and as I met some seniors and, YouTube. So everything that helped me in a great way. So it's like each one had its own contribution and it led me evolve as the person I am today.
Okay. So when did you get to know about placement season and things like that? And when did you initially start, prepping specifically for maybe internship season or prepping for DSA or something like that?
So in our college, right from the first year, we have the induction programs when we join the college. So they acknowledge us with all of these things right from the beginning. And when I actually started, I can say in the full fledged, I can say for the coding, I started from the gap which we got after second year to the third year, the holidays. And I was into the coding part more academically right from the first year, but more into a little bit of competitive programming or solving some lead code questions. I started more of in the vacation, I can say that we got of 2 months.
Okay. So how was this initial prep? Did you just start solving DSA or like what did your initial preparation journey look like?
Yeah, so in my first 2 years, I had a basic command on Java, and academically, the college subjects and all, I had prepped. I had a good preparation in that. So my basics were strong. So fundamentally, I was cleared on that language. The only thing I was needing was the practice and getting exposure to more in-depth data structures. So I started from basic again, but I started most probably the DSA questions, and fundamentally I was strong. I started solving more questions, and then maybe four questions in a day, and all doing it on the own, and then maybe checking it on the video solutions, and then finding out the mistakes which I find like in that way.
Okay. And what were the resources that you followed for DSA? Was it Lead Code, HackerRank, and maybe if you followed some other resource?
Yeah, so initially I had all the YouTube resources which we everyone follows, like the Apna College and maybe HackerRank basic questions. But then afterwards, around after second year, I can say I started more of the Striver sheet and the lead code questions. Like the lead code questions were there from the Striver sheet itself. So I just completely focused on one sheet. And whenever I used to get bored, or sometimes if I need break from the completely DSA questions, I used to go and watch YouTube videos of some OOPS fundamentals, or maybe something which current trending topic is about. So, yeah.
So let's now dive into the BNY journey. So if you can remember when BNY came, and before that, how would you rate your preparation before BNY? Like confidence wise, if you can rate out of 10, how confident were you when the notice may have come out about that BNY is coming to your college? If you can rate yourself.
Yeah, so I can say, according to my preparation, I was like 7 to 8 out of 10 ready, because through that Striver sheet, which gave me a lot of confidence, I was about till graph by solving those questions. But still, I was needing a little bit more confidence on solving those hard questions. I was ready till easy to medium level questions. And before BNY, I faced a few companies like Associum and the Wells Fargo, but then I could not do it after the OA. But eventually, I started practicing more. And then in BNY, it came around in last week of August, I guess, around 30 or 31st August. And then uh, on 2nd or 3rd of September, we had our interview schedule.
What would you say your learnings were for the from the first couple of areas? Because in placement season, I think as a student, you should be mentally ready that you won't clear the first company. Some people they are good enough or they're well prepared enough that they know they clear the first company. For some people, I think the issue is that they are well prepared, but sometimes luck is also a factor, or you don't do good in the way around due to some other reasons as well. So what was the lesson that you took out from the first couple of failures that you faced, and what changes did you make in your prep?
Just if I could tell it in one word, that is, it is all about consistency. Because there will be phases when people around you will get selected and you won't get selected. And I know that feeling is worst, because they are with you in that process and still they are going ahead in that. But keeping up the spirit and then still practicing it, and solving more questions, learning every day something new. That tonight I have something this new which I have learned. You should That's the perspective should always be there in the mind, and that will keep you moving forward. If you're static on one place and just stuck on those thoughts of the ahead person going forward and you not, then it won't help. So just keep yourself dynamic, and every day one new question should be there. That's what the perspective should be following.
Talking about the round, so the first round must have been DSA, right? That BNY, the first OA round.
Yeah, in
So
the
if
OA we had
yeah,
four questions, four DSA questions.
okay. And what were like the level of those questions, and maybe topics that were kind of frequently asked, or overall asked in overall in your college?
Yeah, so in BNY, basically they have this process that they shuffle the questions. So
Yeah, yeah,
even
we'll get
we
the
didn't
same.
get similar questions. So in my set of questions, basically they follow this method that there should be one easy, two medium, and one hard question.
Okay,
So I had all the questions based on arrays, DPs, and strings.
okay,
So yes, so one question on string, it was first question easy, it was an array. Then the two ones were DP, and the last one was of string.
okay. So basically, they have different questions, but I think overall you'll have to practice all the topics at least till for DP, right? So like graph trees, DPs, array strings are the basics, like you mentioned. But DP was
Right.
asked in two out of the four questions, so it is important to study
Yeah,
those
and in
topics as
fact,
well.
the yes, yes. In fact, the graph questions, they did not get me till OA, but they eventually came in the interview as well. So you should be prepared thoroughly and not just on few topics.
Okay. And out of these four questions, how many were you able to solve? And was there any question that you were stuck on? Because what happens with a lot of people is, you might get stuck on some question and people start to panic. And that maybe, if suppose you're stuck on the second question itself, you're spending too much time on that. and you know their
Right.
mentality falls down that I'm not able to solve this question. How do I move ahead? So, did that happen with you in any of the ways, or even in BNY was that the case? And how did you overcome that if that happened with any of the questions?
Yeah. So in my set of questions, I had four questions in from which two questions I could solve. One was the easy one, and the second one was medium. And talking about the remaining two questions, the hard question, which I still remember, I could pass only few test cases of it, and even the third question, which was a medium level question based on DP approach, but I could only apply a normal approach to it, and that thinking process was not that fast during that time. So I could do not all I could not pass all test cases, but a few of them as well. So after that, not in this test, I can say in every test wherever I follow this approach, that I try to focus on one question thoroughly, where I can just pass more test cases in that and then moving on to the next. So yes, in this also the hard question I kept it as it is, even if the few test cases were remaining, and the first two were all passed. So yeah.
Important to stick to a question as well, because a lot of times you start, if you don't get a question, you start juggling between questions, so it's like you don't solve, you end up solving none of them because you're frequently juggling between all the questions. So that could be a good strategy where you
Right.
pick up a question and you focus on that. Okay. So once you cleared the OA round, what was the next round, and what was your experience like in the second round?
So after the OA, we had a gap of few days, I guess 1 or 2 day, and then we have this PPT schedule of the company, and in that PPT they announced the shortlist. So we were not knowing prior that we are going to get shortlist. So in that PPT, basically it's a pre-placement talk. They give the information about the company, and which is also very important, I can say, because I faced a question on what is BNY, or what do you know about BNY in my second round of interview. So after that PPT, they announced the shortlisted ones, and then for the round one, we had two rounds. One was tech round, and the second one was tech plus HR. So for the first round, basically in that interview, I mostly faced questions on the OOPS fundamentals like encapsulation abstractions, and they also asked me to give some real life examples. And talking about the coding part, which they said me to do it on paper, it was around the yes, linked lists and BST, balanced BST approach. And also they asked a few questions on stacks and queues as well. So yes. And in the second round, they gave me one question on strings, which was some based on some ASCII value addition based upon the length, as far as I remember. And then they asked me about the projects which I did. And one of it was the one which I won in the tech fest of my college. So I enhanced the focus on more on that project. And then last question was, yes, what do you know about BNY?
So it was basically oops, some questions about oops and fundamentals. Then the DSA
Yes.
questions, like you mentioned. So DSA questions again, like she had mentioned before, they can vary from interviewer to interviewer, from person to person. So it is important to have an idea of all the topics. And after DSA, it was pretty much talking a bit about your projects and other things that you did during your college life. Now that you mentioned projects, I would love to know a bit more about the project that you just mentioned, the project which won in your college's Tech Fest. So if you can talk a bit about that and what you ended up building for that.
Yeah, so that was around a 7 to 8 hour hackathon kind of thing
Yeah.
in the tech fest of our college. It was like a DSA craft based on the data structures, not data structures, based on the problem statements. You have to choose your data structure and work on it. So our USP was that choosing a different data structure, which is already apart from the one which is already pre-assumed. Suppose if it is a music player, so it's already pre-assumed with some data structures, but our focus
Correct.
was to try it with some different data structure and bring some more new concept into that. And yes, that in that project also, I remember we had BNY mentors as well, because since BNY was one of the sponsors in the tech fest, so they had mentored and they had judged this round even. So it was kind of plus point for me, I can say, where I shown up this project more in my interview as well. So yes, and I won there, so it was add on to my interview.
Well, is there any advice regarding how to first of all learn the different tech stacks that are there, and what kind of projects you should plan to build, and how to build? If you have some advice regarding that as well.
Yes, talking about the tech stack, I can completely recommend staying updated through YouTube's or some, today Instagram channels are also there. So just follow some good set of channels and people you know on them, on that apps. And then talking about the projects, I can say eventually whatever projects we had in the college. I tried to get them also, and apart from that, when I used to get free time, like I said, I had this time of 1 or 2 months.
Yeah.
In that also, I tried something which can be a different one apart from the normal projects that are usually heard by everyone. So that can be a plus point. And in the projects, try to bring something always new and better, which is currently going around you. So that would help much.
And also talking about the technical interview, how did you prep for OOPS and all of that? Was it mainly through YouTube or some other resources? And did you refer to some notes, or did you like make your own notes for the core subjects, basically OOPS and the other subjects that may have been asked?
Yeah, so for these, actually, my fundamentals were cleared due to the college subjects itself. So if you focus rightly in academics, you are 50% done. I can say this. And just staying updated and brushing up on that my knowledge, I followed it through some YouTube channels, even some Google websites also, like maybe Tutorials Point or W3 Schools. So randomly, I used to just go and just tell myself that this is the time which I have to just explore and gain some knowledge on this topic, wherever it would be, from wherever it would be.
Okay. What is the biggest mantra or biggest lesson that you have for people that are about to face the interviews? Because for a lot of people, it's mostly their first time, second year or third year student in most colleges. So, is there some
Right.
mantra or tip that you have about facing the interview, and what sort of mentality one should have while they're talking with the interviewer?
Yes, I can say while talking in the interview, just go with that approach that I'm going to give my best shot, no matter how the ahead results would be. And even if not this company, there is some more better company ahead in my life. So staying with this approach and then just keeping up the spirit. And I can say staying consistent. Just, if it's not done in the one company, that doesn't mean you should stop, because that's the toughest task I can say, to keep up going, which eventually 60 to 70% of crowd give up and stay static in nature. So just be dynamic and always keep yourself updated with what's going around and never give up. So yes.
Okay. And how was the HR round? What sort of questions were asked? And did your extracurricular activities help out? Because a lot of people, they don't take part in extracurricular activities
Right.
for whatever reason that they have. So what is the importance of that? And did they ask anything regarding that as well in the HR round?
So my second round was based on tech plus HR. So after those technical questions, few questions were on the sports in which I was, and just a 1 to 2 line answer I gave, and after that it completely shifted to what do you know about BNY. So not much it was asked, but right from the starting, I was from this perspective. Later on, I got to know that this is also asked in interview, but right from the beginning, I was like, I enjoy this thing. That's why I'm doing it. May it be sports or may it be some other things. So I completely do it for enjoyment. And eventually it got added up in the interviews, answers, and the resumes also. So, yeah.
And is there any advice about communication skills or something that you use? Maybe like a lot of people, they have mocked with their friends if you live in a hostel or something like that. So any advice regarding that, like how to be ready for communication?
Yeah, so I am someone who always is preparing first little bit while communicating in a good way, because that's what the thing. If you are an introvert or some maybe someone who is less of communicating person, so that's what is needed for you. So from my experience, I can tell, not just practice everything line to line, but at least get to know the points which you want to communicate and stick to that point, whatever the conversation will be. Just don't change the path. Stick to what you want to say and what you want to pass the message, and eventually your sentences and then whatever you want to say, it turns up like that. But just keep the points in mind, so beforehand you should be ready with the points at least.
So now let's dive into the journey at BNY. So first of all, how was your first day as a corporate experience? Because BNY's office is really good. The infrastructure is very good and it's at like a prime location. So how was your first day in corporate? And then you can maybe talk about how you secured a PPO and what helped you out during that internship journey.
Yeah, so it was very enthusiastic, I can say, first day at BNY, because that is the first time where I entered my corporate life, getting to know all the things. And the day went in the induction sessions and getting to know the company better. And also, a few things which I learned from the BNY journey was. Uh, I am the kind of person who never gives up, but in my journey of 2 months, also I faced few situations where there comes a lot of things that you feel like to give up, and there are few things which you feel stressed out about, because you are getting a production ready projects, you are getting something which is into the real life corporate, and you had the exposure previously to basic college level projects. So that is the shift which you can maybe feel difficult to digest, but that's what uh, the message which I got through from those 2 months were like, keep going, no matter what. It is okay that it's feeling difficult right now, but eventually after a few weeks, when I got used to with those projects and the kind of work I was getting, it was more habitual to me, and then I felt a little comfortable in that. And then eventually I also tried some new logics in that. So that was the key message which I got, that keep going. And now, right now it's feeling a little uncomfortable because it's new, but it will get comfortable soon. So yes.
Okay. So now let's move to the rapid fire section where I'll have a simple question. You can answer whatever comes into your mind. So yeah. So first question is, do you prefer lead code or do you prefer hacker rank?
Lead code.
Okay. What is the best thing about BNY apart from the technical things and the exposure that you got?
I can say the good mentorship culture they have, but apart from that, they also give some, parties apart from the work life. So that's what keeps us engaged all the time.
Okay. Hostel food or corporate food? Which one is better?
Obviously, corporate food.
Okay. What is one DSA topic that you feel like is very important for students to study?
I can say there are many topics, but the level should be a little different for each topic. And you should always start from the array strings, which everyone starts. And your
Yeah.
main focus should always be on the DP, because that is sure shot ask wherever, in whichever company you apply. So your main focus should always be on the fundamentals, and then after that, the DP and the remaining ones.
Okay. What is your best memory of college that you have? Maybe technical memory or something like that, which you would want to share.
From college, I can say yes, technically winning in few hackathons or being the tech lead of clubs. This is kind of technical memories. But apart from these, I have got very nice friends, and then making memories with them. So yes, I have good friends, which I am in contact with right now. So I have
Yeah,
those memories.
it's worth it. 4 years of college, and yeah. So I think that is pretty. Yeah. What and one more last thing. What do you prefer to do? Do you prefer to make individual projects or do you like group projects more? Like, what is a better experience?
Right now, I would say that getting into group projects will be productive if you have the group members like that. Because
Yeah.
one thing I learned from this was everyone should be in that zone to give 100% contribution. If only one of them is working, that doesn't make sense. Otherwise, if the group is not that good, I would definitely prefer individual project. But the group is full of productivity, and everyone has a new set of ideas, and not even new set of ideas, but the energy to give you 100%, then I am ready for group projects as well.
Yeah. What is one senior advice that really helped you out? If there is something, maybe senior advice or some advice that your friend or someone from college gave you, and if you would want to mention who they were, if you want to mention that, but mainly what the advice was.
Yeah, so I had my senior in this club, which was in which I was the tech lead. So first she was the tech lead, and then eventually following her, I took guidance from her. And also, one thing which I remember from her was always staying updated and consistent. That was the thing I used to follow even, but somewhere it happens that it gets fade away
Correct.
from your
Correct.
mind, and someone comes in your life. to remind you back. So yes, she was the one who reminded me this again and kept me on track always.
Okay. And the last question would be, if you'd want to give a message to your younger self, or maybe Rutuja was just entering college, what would that message be?
Yeah, so the earlier version of me, the younger version of me, was a little chaotic and confused in what why will I do, because there was competition everywhere. There is still competition everywhere. The only message I can give is keep going, because the competition is never going to stop. You have to give your best shot.
Okay. So this was the rapid fire round. So as we come to the end of the podcast, Rutuja, I would like you to tell a final message to maybe your juniors who are who are in internship season right now, and for generally for our viewers, what would that one final message be?
For me, it is like from my side, it would be like just not to stop on one thing, whatever you achieve, even if you don't achieve, just always try something new and something which keeps you alive, with that energy, that and excitement all the time. So it should not be static. And the message to juniors would be, it's okay if it's not this company. There is something better company, as I said prior also, because there is something written for you. As I say, placement journey is not always about coding or technicalities. It's always somewhere about the luck factor. It's always about the efforts you put in, or the attitude which you have towards your journey. So keep that positive attitude. Eventually something good is going to come on your plate.
Okay. So thank you so much, Rutuja, for coming on this podcast. And guys, I dropped down your doubts. If you have something like that, you can connect with Rutuja as well. You can follow our page. And if you have any doubts, feel free to mention them in the comment section as well. We'll try to answer that. And I'll also attach links to resources that Rutuja followed. So hopefully this podcast will definitely help a couple of people crack the BNY placement, or crack other companies, in fact, and not make the same mistakes that Rutuja made, and also learn from her journey, because it's probably a really good journey. It was great, knowing that journey and seeing how you evolved over your college life and what really helped you crack such good companies. So yeah, thank you so much for sparing some time on the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much.